everyone, this is Dawn. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make this card using the Isabella collection. I'm also going to be using the Operation Smile stamp set called Every Bit of Wonderful. This is Isabella scrapbooking stamp and thin cut set and Every Bit of Wonderful, and then the papers from Isabella and a collection of various cardstocks that coordinate. I'm going to use this pattern from Make It From Your Heart Volume 5, and I'm going to turn it so that it's landscape. So I'm kind of following the pattern. All right, so let's start cutting some cardstock. This is White Daisy, and I'm going to cut enough so that I have enough room to stamp this floral image. It's the flower with the lemon, and then I'm going to stamp my sentiment on the White Daisy as well. So my base is going to be an A2 cardstock size. So I'm going to cut some bluebird at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then I'm going to use the light side of lemonade. So my bluebird is going to be my frame, and then I'm going to use lemonade as the base. So I'm cutting that at 4 by 5 1/4. Okay, so now each of these squares or diamonds are cut at 1 1/4 by 1 1/4 square. So I'm just going to cut a whole bunch because I don't know how many I'm going to need. So I'm going to cut a total of 16 because I changed my mind along the way. So I'm using this bluebird pattern, and then the flip side that has some lemonade on it. And then I was just going to use the chevrons, but then I flipped this over and I realized that each of those designs are 1 1/4 by 1 1/4. Perfect. So I'm going to cut some of those out and use them. So I'm going to cut 4 different ones and just kind of cherry pick which ones I want to use. And then I'll flip it over and use the chevron as well. So I'm picking my favorites, and then I'm going to cut the chevrons. So I'll cut a few of those as well. So each of the squares are 1 1/4 by 1 1/4, and obviously I have plenty here, so I'll be able to make a couple of cards. Okay, so I'm going to lay my pattern out on the lemonade cardstock. So I'm finding the center of my cardstock. So the 6-inch mark is going to be my center that I'm going to work with. And from here on, I'm just kind of eyeballing it. So I'm going to lay all of my little squares out first, so I can kind of figure out how I want my pattern to work. So I'm going to center the points from top to bottom and then from side to side. And I'm also going to leave just a smidge of color in between each of these squares. I haven't started to do that yet, but I will, so that some of the lemonade shines between each square. So I'm just kind of figuring out my pattern. It's always good to lay everything out before you start gluing stuff down. And it's pretty busy, but a lot of it's going to be covered up with the floral image in my sentiment. So I just want a little bit of these patterns to poke out. Okay, so I'm liking that. So I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to goof around with it just a little bit more and figure things out. Okay, and then I'm going to set this aside and do my stamping. Okay, so I'm going to flip my verse mat over to the soft side for stamping, and I'm just going to stamp my image in black ink because I'm going to color it in with the tri-blends. Get that inked up really well. And then my bluebird is still packed up somewhere from our move. So I found some sapphire, so I'm going to use sapphire for my sentiment. And it looks fine. It's good. Moving cross country is crazy. So I'm going to speed this up super fast. And I'm coloring in my images using the tri-blend markers and doing just a little bit of shading. I'm just following the design of the stamp for my shading. And then I'm using this kind of a brown gray. It's close to mink is the coordinating color for this collection. So I just wanted to do a little more shading so that it looks like a white flower, but has a little dimension to it. So, and then I'm going to use a bright green marker for my leaves and do a little bit of shading in there too. Don't you wish you could color this fast? So get some color on there and we're good to go. All right, now I'm going to bring my Big Shot in and then cut out this image with the coordinating thin cut. Get that rolled on through. My camera's acting up. It was shutting off by itself and kind of taking on a mind of its own. So the video does cut short at the very, very end, but fortunately I got the majority of it. So apologies for that. I'll have to figure out what's going on with it. So, okay, so I've got these rolled through and cut out. This other thin cut that I used is called Stitched Simple Brackets, and it's from the core catalog. Okay, so I'm ready to start gluing things down. And I'm just using Tombow. So I've got my A2 card base. And then I'm just going to layer things. I'm going to keep the dimension pretty low. So I'm just using Tombow for everything until I start adding my sentiment and image, because I want to use some of the Isabella acrylic shapes on this card too. So I don't want it to be too lumpy. So I'm just gluing everything down the same way that I had laid it out on my card front. And I'll skip ahead in a second. So it's the same basic thing, just putting everything down and gluing it all. So this is my last square to glue, and then I'm going to flip it over and just trim off the excess. All right. So there's my design. And then I'm just going to add this to my card front with Tombow. And then my sentiment and my floral image, I'm going to pop with thin foam tape. So I'm just going to play around with it first to see where exactly I want them to be on my card. And I like that. Okay, so we'll get those popped with foam tape and added to the card. So I left part of the flower without any foam tape so that I could scooch this sentiment underneath. Okay, and then for the last step, I'm going to add these acrylic shapes. So I've just pulled a variety and I'm going to attach them to my card front with glue dots. Pretty simple. So these little images, they have teensy tiny white or blue circles that go in the middle. So I'm adding those as well with glue dots. Super fun. So I have some still images right here. So all of these supplies are currently available in my online store. It's part of the new July-August catalog. You can go to the URL in the upper right corner, or I'll list everything in the description below. I appreciate you watching my video today. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button, and thanks for watching.